Britain and France did, I think it was about 1907, which is 9 years after the body of Iran is discovered. What Britain and France did cunningly, is to embrace Russia. Traditionally, they've always fought against Russia. And they've always been allies of the Ottomans. Britain and France were always allies of the Ottomans. They always protected the Ottoman Empire. They always assisted the Ottoman Empire. They didn't want Russia to ever defeat the Ottomans. No. But now that the body of Iran is discovered, they do something strange and mysterious. They reach out to Russia to successfully embrace Russia in an alliance, a triple alliance, 1907. Britain, France, and Russia, knowing that the World War is coming up. Why did they do that? Answer, I wish I had enough time to stop and ask you all some questions. In chess, there's a term, they call it checkmate. Checkmate. You put your enemy in a position where he can't move. Anyhow he turns his block. So they checkmated the Ottoman Empire. So that when the war starts, the Ottomans cannot become allies in the war with Britain and France. Why? Because Russia is there. And Russia is a traditional enemy. That's why they did it. So the pieces on the chessboard are being put in place as we approach 1914, when the World War is to take place. Out there, Hussein bin Ali is ready to revolt against the Ottoman Empire. And over here, the Turks, the secular Turks, take over the government, regime change. And over there, Britain and France make an alliance with Russia to checkmate the Ottoman Empire. Russia responded when the war started. Russia naturally, you can't blame Russia, in seeking to get all the Orthodox Christians under Ottoman rule to revolt. What's wrong with that? This is war. And as the Armenians revolt against the Ottoman Empire, what the secular Turks did, and they admit it, they say, yes, we did it, was to forcefully remove millions of Armenians from territory in which they were located, which was vulnerable to Constantinople, to another area. And a great massacre took place. The secular government in Constantinople can't fool us by throwing wool over our eyes. All the excuses that they made, and they are still making to this day, is just dust in our eyes. They deliberately massacred the Armenian Christians. It's called the Holocaust. It did take place. Why? It's not too difficult for you to understand why. Because they are pursuing the same policy that the Ottomans had pursued before the regime change. What was that policy? Deliberate antagonism of whom? So that the hatred that the Orthodox Christians have for Islam would intensify. That's why you had the Holocaust. of the Armenians in must have been around 1914, 15, somewhere around there, okay? By 1917, the writing was on the wall for two countries. The writing was on the wall for the Ottoman Empire, that they were going to be defeated. They had made an alliance with Germany because there was nothing else that they could do. Because they had been checkmated. That's what Britain and France wanted. We wanted you to make an alliance with Germany. The writing was on the wall for the Ottoman Empire and for Germany. You were losing the war. All that the Zionists needed to win the war was to get the United States of America to enter the war. The fellow who gave us the motor car, what was his name? Henry? You've forgotten his name? We still have Ford motor cars around. FOR did a fix and repair, something with that. Henry Ford did everything he could possibly do to prevent the United States from entering the war. And when he lost the battle, he had the money to bring together the research scholars and to be able to document how they succeeded. And he produced a book called The International Jew, in 4 volumes, big, in which he explains and reveals what they did, the Zionists did, to get the United States into the war. Most Americans have not read that book. It's banned in the United States. As soon as the United States entered into the war, it was over. But before that, before the United States entered into the war, Germany had the upper hand. And Britain and France very cunningly ensured that Russia would bear the brunt of the fighting from 1914 to 1916. Millions of Russians were killed. Russia had to abandon Moscow, I believe. And the Russian economy was in shambles. And the Russians were suffering, and this is precisely what the British wanted. Oh, we are allies. No. What Britain and France did was to say to Russia in 1907, or maybe shortly after that if you join with us in an alliance, when we defeat the sick man of Europe, we promise you Constantinople. And the Russians fell for the bait. I went to Russia and warned them, don't fall for the bait a second time. They're coming to you with another bait now. If we win the war, we offer you Constantinople. But they were not sincere. In the same way that they were not sincere with the Arabs when they were fomenting this Arab revolt to get your independence from the Turks. We promise you, if you will assist us in defeating the Ottoman Empire, we promise you independence. There will be one Arab nation at the end of the war, one Arab nation, and the king of the Arabs would be Hussein bin Ali. You believe the British and the French? Are you so stupid? So on the one hand, they were offering Russia Constantinople, and you are our ally. But behind Russia's back, they were stabbing Russia in the back. How did they do it? The strategy was to get Russia to take the brunt of the fighting, to get Russia to take the brunt of those who are being killed in the war, to get the Russian people to suffer and suffer and suffer, and then to foment revolt in Russia. And the Russian Jews now play a critical role in bringing about a revolution. The timing of the revolution is immaculate. Immaculate. The Russian troops are approaching Constantinople. Constantinople is within reach of the Russians. And this is the prize which has been offered to them by Britain and France. But Britain and France do not want Russia to take control of Constantinople. No. Why? Because tomorrow there's going to be a state of Israel. And we do not trust Russia. Because Russia is not Western Christian, it's Eastern Christian. And we do not want Russian warships to be able to pass through the Bosphorus to get into the Mediterranean Sea. So we want to control the Bosphorus, and we must therefore control Constantinople. Under no condition must Constantinople ever get outside of our grasp or reach. And so when the Russian troops were within grasp of Constantinople, then the Russian Jews acted in October 1917, because there is popular discontent in Russia over the war, because the Russian troops are suffering in the war, because workers are suffering in the war, the economy is in shambles. There are riots and demonstrations all over Russia. The Tsar Nicholas can't handle it. So now they succeed, the Russian Jews, amongst them is Lenin. And they overthrow the Russian monarchy. It will not be long again before they overthrow another monarchy. This monarchy had lasted for a few hundred years, the Russian monarchy. But that monarchy is 4,000 years old. And they're going to overthrow that one as well. Which one am I talking about? Come on, somebody. China. China. The Chinese emperor. They're 4,000 years old of emperors. The Tsar Nicholas and his entire family are assassinated, killed. And the Zionists take over Moscow, October 1917. The first thing that they do is to withdraw Russia from the war. Why? So that the Russian troops cannot proceed further to take Constantinople, which is what Christian Russia wants. Because the Bolsheviks don't care for religion. No. What they want is a godless atheist state, and they get it in 1922 when the Soviet Union is created as a Zionist creation, the Soviet Union. So the Zionists are achieving monumental successes. I mean, there was a revolution in Constantinople in 1908, which overthrew the Ottoman regime, which was based on the Sharia. And now you have a secular regime in Constantinople. And now look at what they do a few years later in Moscow. This is the Orthodox Church, the Christian Orthodox Church. This is Rome. So Islam is now being ruled by secular Turks, young Turks in Constantinople. And Rome is now being ruled by Jews, Russian Jews, godless Russian Jews, who take a lot from Karl Marx, the German Karl Marx, who was a Jew as well. The events which have been unfolding since the birth, since the discovery of the body of Iran, show a certain pattern. And what we are doing is connecting the dots that were never connected before. This is the first time. We are connecting it from the perspective of Islamic eschatology. The British and the French decide to launch an attack on the Ottoman Empire and to land a few 100,000 troops in a place called Gallipoli. The history of that war, the true history, is still to be written, I believe. But they maneuver, and at the end of it, Mustafa Kemal defeats them very conveniently. And Mustafa Kemal now emerges as the hero of all the Turks. They worship the man now. And then he proceeds to take on Greece, which has sent troops into the Turkish heartland. And Mustafa Kemal defeats the Greek army. The Greeks are seeking help from Britain and from France. But Western Christianity does not want to support Eastern Christianity. So Greece is defeated. And by 1922, Mustafa Kemal is, without question, the hero of all the Turks. Oh yeah. He's able to take over Constantinople because British troops and French troops are there. And as he takes over Constantinople, he proclaims that we want the Republic of Turkey. My gosh, it is this transformation from the old model of an Ottoman Empire, which is abandoned, to the new model of a secular state, the Republic of Turkey, that makes the greatest impact of all on Asia and Africa. The American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution did not have a comparable impact. What happened in Turkey has the greatest impact of all. And so the Republic, the secular Republic of Turkey is established. And Islam is put into cold storage. He did a number of things to antagonize Muslims. You no longer can wear this hat which allows you to make sajda. You now have to wear the Western hat. So the tarbush, I think it's called, the red one, that one is abandoned. Now you have to wear Western hats. So that with the Western hat, you could take it off if you want to make sajda. The Arabic script is abandoned. And the Latin script is replaced. The same thing happened in Malaysia. The Malay language, the Jawi language, the Arabic script is abandoned. And the Roman script, the Latin script is replaced. We have a Malaysian here who knows what happened. It did not happen with the Arabic language. It did not happen with the Urdu language, it did not happen with the Farsi language, but it happened with Turkish. The Azan, oh my gosh, for Salat, must now be called in Turkish language, not in Arabic anymore. All the madrasas, all the institutions of Islamic learning are closed down. Closed down. It's war on Islam. At the heart of Constantinople. The name of the city is changed. It's no longer Constantinople. Why Mustafa Kemal? Come on, tell us why. Because they know fully well that the conquest of Constantinople in 1452 is not the one that the Prophet ﷺ prophesied. That the conquest of Constantinople prophesied by Nabi Muhammad ﷺ is still to come. Is still to come. We now can see when that conquest does come, the back of NATO will be broken. And the Western world will lose its control over the Bosphorus. That's coming. But Mustafa Kemal doesn't want us to know that. So he changes the name from Constantinople and makes it an offense, a crime, to use the name Constantinople. You have to refer to it as Istanbul, which is one of the many names it had. All names. And then comes 1924. The events are following rapidly now. In 1922, Mustafa Kemal says, yes, we're going to have a Republic of Turkey, but hey, the Western Christians, they got a Pope in Rome. So why can't we have a Pope as well? What's wrong with that? So the Khalifa is now reduced to a Pope, meaning he has religious authority, he has no temporal authority. Huh? But by 1924 they had to remove that as well, because there was a challenge. The Khilafah is now being dismantled, the institution of the Khilafah. And this is the biggest prize of all that the Zionists have been pursuing since the establishment of the Zionist movement. Even when in 1917, November, General Allenby, with Arab troops fighting loyally with him, shall I repeat it? Huh? Even when in November 1917, the British general, with Arab troops fighting loyally with him, is able to conquer Jerusalem. And then in 1918, the League of Nations gives to Britain a mandate over the Holy Land. What they want is the Caliphate, the Khilafah. And in 1924 they succeed. And because of the Khilafat movement in India. But we're running out of time. And the Caliphate is abolished on the 3rd of March 1924. And then Hussein bin Ali claims the Khilafat on the 7th of March 1924. You find all of this history in my book at the back. The Caliphate, the Hijaz, and the Saudi Wahhabi nation state. These are the events of the first Arab Spring, which led to victory after victory for the Zionists. When we leave that first Arab Spring and we come now to this Arab Spring, we see the same pattern taking place. The Ottomans are removed and they put the Saudis in place to do their work for them. But now in the second Arab Spring, despite all the efforts of Saudi Arabia to save themselves, Saudi Arabia is sinking. Dajjal has used Saudi Arabia for all that he needed from Saudi Arabia. And Dajjal doesn't need Saudi Arabia anymore. So goodbye, Saudi Arabia. Dajjal has used the United States for as long as Dajjal needed the United States. Dajjal doesn't need the United States anymore so much, so goodbye, United States. In the second Arab Spring, we see now events taking place which are going to culminate with what the Zionists want most of all, a state of Israel which was born in 1948 and which since then has been growing and growing and growing in power, replaces the United States as the third and last ruling state in the world. And then Israel has to wage big wars. In order for Israel to wage a big war, she has to weaken the Muslims. Even though the governments are under the Zionist control, the people are still there. So Israel needs something that will weaken the Muslims. The best card that they have, the trump card that they have, is Shia-Sunni civil war. And that is now being played. My time is up. The second Arab Spring, I believe, is going to witness. I hope it does not happen. I hope I'm wrong. An attack on Iran, which is meant to provoke Iran. It's not an attack to destroy Iran, no. It's like a punch to wake you up and to get you to fight. And if Iran takes the bait like Saddam Hussein took the bait when he took Kuwait, then we'll see Iran attacking Bahrain. I hope it does not happen. They want Iran to take Bahrain. Oh yes, they do. Why? Because once Iran take Bahrain, the road to Mecca is straight ahead. And the Shia are going to be delighted if you offer this plum. It's the best plum in the world to offer to them. Shia control over Mecca and Medina. And that's the bait. All that the Shia Iran has to be convinced about is that the United States and Britain and France and NATO are going to dump Saudi Arabia. And that is what they're going to do now. They will dump Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis can't fight the war by themselves. No. If Iran makes the mistake of attacking Saudi Arabia, if Iran makes that mistake, then the whole Sunni world will rise up and there will be Sunni-Shia civil war. And the Zionists will get what they want. And the voice of Imran Hussein will be a voice crying in the wilderness. What I've done for you today in this brief amount of time, cutting a lot of corners, is to offer you a review of 100 years of history from the perspective of Islamic eschatology, showing you Dajjal's pattern, how he's moving, and what are his strategies to achieve his objective of eventually ruling the world from